8 a.m.
Why don't you shut up?
Oh, my God.
And let's get down to some real business.
On the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bowers.
If it's a hot story, we're digging deeper.
It's the hottest.
And it's on your home for nonstop sports.
The Zone 105.9 and online at The Zone.
It's hot.
1059.com.
All right, Blake caught me eating a pretzel. Didn't have enough time there. Here we go. Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Welcome in. Good morning. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for hanging out with us, making us your SEC show of choice. Sports and entertainment show of choice, too, on 105.9 The Zone. We're streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app. We're live from the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook and Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. The show is brought to you by the Bone-In Ribeye at Kessler Prime and the Renaissance. Throw in some bacon-wrapped shrimp at a Four Roses Bourbon Manhattan. You'll be happy. KesslerPrime.com to make a reservation. Farm Bureau Insurance call-in line is 601-995-1059. Twitter handle at BowBounds. Brought to you by the Men's Clinic in Madison. Anti-aging clinic for men. The Men's Clinic. Dr. Mike Manning, Dr. Cliff Adams, Highland Colony in Madison, themanthing.com. If you feel like you're low testosterone, fatigue, lost your sex drive, that would be the Men's Clinic, anti-aging clinic for men. Themanthing.com. You can call, schedule a free blood test, then they'll walk you through what you need from there. The Men's Clinic in Madison, Dr. Mike Manning and Dr. Cliff Adams. Mississippi Ag, John Deere Tractor text line is 601-885-3776. We'll go to the Mississippi Ag text line. And who is this? Pat said that Matt Corral is a turnover machine. I think that's extreme. Matt had 2 games where the turnover bug really, really bit him. Arkansas and LSU. You're going to turn the ball over when you run an offense like that at times. I can promise you the big explosive plays and big-time throws and runs outweigh a couple of bad Saturday afternoons. So I think Matt Corral's top 5 quarterback coming back in the country. It is amazing the love that some of these guys are getting. I mean, JT Daniels. Did anybody watch college football last year? You want to compare JT Daniels and Matt Corral? They're not even in the same conversation. They're not even in the same zip code. I mean, and then I'm looking at one site has Bo Nix ahead of Matt Corral. I'm not sure Bo Nix is a Power 5 starter.
That one doesn't make sense at all.
And you think JT Daniels does?
I think I can understand how someone talked themselves into JT Daniels having a good enough year next year. Although that was pre-George Pickens, their number 1 receiver, going down with an ACL injury. He'll be out next season. That will factor into it. But I could see how someone would convince themselves JT could have a good year because it's Georgia and what he'll have around him. How could you have watched a minute of Bo Nix and gone, I'll stake my horse to this guy?
I'll go both. How could you have watched a minute of JT Daniels or Bo Nix and think that they're even in the same conversation as Matt Corral? Or Kellen Mond, I know he's gone, or anybody else. Now, I think Ole Miss and Mississippi State have 2 of the better quarterbacks returning. Now, again, different deal. Matt's going to be more of a highlight reel, okay? Big arm, crazy athletic, can still beat you with his legs for 20 yards. Wiry, strong, pretty big. He's not Peyton Manning, Eli, but he's 6'2", maybe 6'2" and change, gaining a little weight every year. Then you got Will Rogers, he's my Drew Brees of college football. Off the charts smart, showed probably more mettle and grit and stuff than any true freshman quarterback that's played at Mississippi State and Ole Miss. The whole world was burning down around him. And the kid just made a play, made another play, made another play. And according to those inside the football building, and because this takes a little time, Will didn't get really comfortable with his reads at the line of scrimmage to know when to check down to run the football until the Missouri game, which is very understandable. And then all of a sudden they started mixing in the run and the pass. Of course, MSU fans had jumped to conclusions. They're not going to run the football. They're not going to be effective. That's not correct. If you watched several of Minshew's games at Washington State, there were times where he would lean on running the football because, as people inside the building would tell you, he figured out what to do over time. And so you saw that from Will after he got a few games under his belt. And against Missouri, he knew what to look for, and he did it. And Marks and Johnson had some gaping holes to run the football. So I think you'll see that number of passing reps. I mean, it's not going to go way down, but it will shift a little bit towards some running plays because now Will started seeing some other things later in the year, and he'll only get better with spring practice and 30 practices in August, and as he gets ready for his second year to start in the Southeastern Conference. So I'm excited. You got Matt Corral, who's very NFL prospecty and got a little Patrick Mahomes in him at the college level. And then you got Will Rogers, who's got some Drew Brees in him at the college level. And I like both. And I can't wait to see, what the guys look like around them. Again, Will's top three players were freshmen, Marks, Johnson, and Wally. And Tulu came on a little bit late, but he'll get better. And then Corral's going to have an opportunity to lean on some veterans. Drummond and Sanders have been there forever. Ely will be a junior/sophomore. Y'all know the drill. Nobody's eligibility counted last year. And then Mingo, a year older. We'll see what we get from Mingo and Dennis Jackson and some other guys that they have added to the mix. The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Save on your auto and home with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. Hit favorites.com. Farm Bureau Insurance. Go local. Go with the home team. Farm Bureau Insurance. Hey, we're super excited, Blake, to welcome in the M-Braves again this year. Been a great partner on the Out of Bounds Show. I was at the ballpark yesterday. They redid the Farm Bureau Insurance restaurant and bar, and they built a new bar out there. It's really, really nice. Looks great. They're all excited about May 6th, I think it is their first home game for the M-Braves. They did not play last year, but they will be playing this year. They'll start a little later, but the M-Braves will start in May, and they'll have Thirsty Thursdays, among other things going on. And they're adding some different food bars and so on. And, of course, the game day nachos that they have out there are unbelievable. We'll have Chris Lemonis coming up next, the head baseball coach at MSU. Lemonis will join us, talk a little bit about his squad as they get ready to host Arkansas. Ole Miss plays tonight against Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Could be more Ole Miss fans than Bama fans there. And then Mississippi State will play Arkansas at Dudy Noble Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We had Kyle Peterson on earlier, and he'll call the Ole Miss game tonight and the Mississippi State game on Sunday. Hey, the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone, is brought to you by Independent Roofing Systems, the number one commercial roofing company in Mississippi. Independent Roofing Systems, number one commercial roofing company in Mississippi. The Out of Bounds Show is powered by Independent Roofing Systems. Chris Lemonis coming up next. right, good morning. Welcome in. The Out of Bounds Show is driven by the number one crossover luxury SUV on the market. That would be the Acura MDX. Visit AcuraofJackson.com this morning and pick yours out. The award-winning brand new Acura of Jackson in Ridgeland. You're listening to the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Our guests join us on the Modelo guest line. We welcome in Hell State baseball coach Chris Lemonis to the show. Coach, how excited were you to see Will Bednar take the baseball, get on the bump, and have an outstanding performance last weekend against the LSU Tigers?
Well, that's what we expected from week one. It just, we had it backed up a little bit. So it was good to see him back. He dominated in that start. Had a great slider, which usually his fastball's his go-to pitch, but his slider was so good that night we used it a bunch.
Chris Lemonis on the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. So McLeod and Bednar looked great. McLeod also with the great outing because Hill looked really good throughout the night for LSU too, Coach.
Yeah, Christian set the tone for the whole weekend. He pitched up in the zone, used his changeup. LSU had been as hot as about as any offense in the country, and he came out and he dominated too. And usually when you get that on Friday night, it seems like everybody falls in line a little bit, and we pretty much dominated until Sunday on the mound. It was good to have Christian in the right mode that night.
Chris Lemonis on the Modelo guest line. And how about Brandon Smith? Every time you and Foxhall call his number, he comes in and really steps up and does everything that he needs to do for your squad.
Well, a lot of people, they talk about certain guys on our staff, and we do have a really good staff. And I think some of the biggest reasons are because of guys like Brandon Smith. Brandon Smith gives us a 2 or 3 inning guy that can follow one of our starters and get us to our closer, and it's letting us not have to throw Christian McLeod 8 innings. Christian throws 5 or 6. We hand it to Brandon Smith, and then Brandon, the other night Brandon went all the way. But he's a nice compliment to Christian too. Christian's more of the high spin rate fastball up in the zone, and then Brandon comes in and he sinks it about as good as anybody. So you're kind of getting 2 really different looks with those 2 guys. And I'm happy for the kid. You have an injury like that, you go through a year like that, it was really tough on him. But he is a tremendous kid, worked his tail off, and now he's reaping the rewards.
Let's go back to Bednar for one more second before we get into your lineup and Skinner and some other guys. Let's see. Bednar's got some fire in him, Coach. The fan base really that resonates, and they kind of gravitate to a guy who gets out there and he's ready to go. Go get after it. Your thoughts?
He was when we got him last year, he was hurt all fall, and very quiet, nice kid. Just you don't see that. And we run him out there in the first game, and he's ready to get in a fight with the other team, and we're like, whoa, what's going on? And he he pitches with such aggression and confidence. Our team loves playing behind it. He's stomping around the mound, he's going after guys. There's just a lot of times you'd be a little fearful that was his first SEC start last week, and he hadn't had a start all year. So, hey, how's he going to handle it? And he runs out there, and he is dominant from pitch one. And so, really, really big competitor. And it's nice, when you have him and on that game with him and Landon Sims kind of has that same mentality. I am coming after you. And it's nice to have him on our team.
When will you and Foxhall decide on Sunday, Coach?
Yeah, we're going to meet today. We got a couple different options. They just have so many left-handed hitters in their lineup, so we're trying to figure some different options out and see who we have. Some, Houston Harding. You got Jackson Bristow. You got, some of those guys in there. It'll be somebody in that mix, but we're just, we're pretty, the other 2 pitch so well. Those are easy ones, and we just want to look at Arkansas a little bit longer.
How impressed are you with Forsythe at shortstop?
And it's been really good. And it really, once we put him out there, our defensive issues kind of cleaned up pretty quick. And he makes a lot of plays, and he makes them look easy. And he's not trying to be cool or anything like that. He just has He just has shortstop actions and can play shortstop at a high level, even for a freshman. His defensive, I'm more impressed with the offense. He's been able to compete and give us some offense and giving us some big swings.
Chris Lemonis on the Out of Bounds show. His team will take on Arkansas at Dudy Noble Field this weekend. Chris joins us on the Modelo guest line. Coach, what about Skinner? He battled some injuries, and you insert him in the lineup, and he really has a tremendous impact on your team over the weekend.
He was starting for us at the beginning of the year. He would have been a starter for us. He had a really good preseason, had a good end of the fall. Very dynamic kid. You're watching him play, and he runs about as good as anybody in the country. But he broke that hamate bone, about the first week we gotten back from the holidays. And that's a tricky injury. So we had to, the last week or so, he's been cleared. But I found out in the past, sometimes if you bring them back too fast, they're not hurt anymore. They're just in a slump because they don't hit well because their hand's not feeling well. But we put him out there, and Friday night his hand looked just fine. And he was able to get out there and get going, and he's been pretty good since then. But, he chops a lot of balls in the ground, and he flies and beats them out, and then he has some juice. I mean, I thought he hit one out last night. So, very a five-tool type of player. Just raw, just still learning the game, but he is he's a special player.
Man, he looks like a talented dude. Chris Lemonis on the Out of Bounds show. Coach, we got about a minute and a half here. What are you looking for from your lineup at the plate this weekend? Or, I'm sorry, going forward as far as getting a little bit better and finding some more pop, if you will. Yeah,
well, I'm not so much worried about pop. We got a couple guys that have just been okay. Rowdy, Hatch, Scotty DeBrule, all kids who've hit 300, almost every year and played really well. I mean, Scotty DeBrule, somebody tweeted out the other night, he's the leading hits leader in NCAA right now. So, of active players. So, they've had a lot of hits in their career. We just need to get those guys going a little bit. Arkansas is going to come here, very similar type of staff as ours, power-oriented, a lot of big arms. Our message is, you have to be able to hit the fastball. You got to be ready for the fastball. We got to be able to jump on some fastballs. Last weekend, I guess on Tuesday we beat Sanford and hit a handful of home runs. We faced Jaden Hill, who I think is picked to be in the top 5 picks on Friday night with the wind blowing in, beat him. And then Marceau, their ace, who is maybe the best pitcher in our league, we beat him in a tough game with the wind blowing in. So, I don't want to put too much on our, I've heard a lot of people saying, we weren't real good offensively. Sometimes it's the guy on the bump, Now, I didn't think we were good Sunday. Sunday's the day. And we struggle a little bit more with that soft guy who's turning that changeup over. So that was the frustrating day to me. But we're going to work this morning. We're going to jump out there and get some BP. And the emphasis is being ready to hit the fastball because I think they're going to come at us with some really power arms. And they got a bullpen similar to ours. So when they start going to the bullpen, you're going to see some numbers on the scoreboard.
We'll leave it there. Chris Lemonis and his team will host the Arkansas Razorbacks, number 1 versus number 2 this weekend, Dudy Noble Field. It will be some big-time crowds and big-time SEC baseball. Chris, thanks so much for your time today. We'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
Chris Lemonis on the Modelo guest line, Hail State baseball coach, and he'll go McLeod, Bednar, and then to be determined, although most people believe it will be Fristow on Sunday. He mentioned Houston Harding, too. And so Blake Scott is chomping at the bit to know who is going to be the guy on Sunday for the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Blake?
Yeah, sorry. I'm locked and loaded. Can we start tonight? Can we play 4 games?
Yeah. Hey, I lobbied for that months ago. Hey, we're live from the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook. Bet $50 here. Play award-winning Dancing Rabbit Golf Club for $30 through next Wednesday. But you can still do golf stay-in plays, buddies trips, a little bit of golf at Dancing Rabbit Golf Club, the Sportsbook, Philip M's, Mama and M's new restaurant. They got it all going on here at the Pearl River Resort. You're listening to ESPN 105.9 The Zone. All right, the Out of Bounds show. We'll have Steve Palazzolo coming up next. Talk NFL QBs in the draft. Who's overrated? Mac Jones and Kyle Trask, probably. Where do you find value in the first round? Is that possible with NFL QBs? Outside of Trevor Lawrence? Hey, the Out of Bounds show is brought to you by Mosquito Joe. Make outside fun again. Go with Mosquito Joe. Just think of Joe DiMaggio, Joe Torre, Joe Lewis, Mosquito Joe. And if you're looking to get a misting system at your home, Mosquito Joe can install it. If you have one, they can service it. That's a good deal, right? Slapping mosquitoes on your ankles and your neck when you have friends over, that's no good. Mosquito Joe. Mosquito Joe. The Out of Bounds show is powered by Mosquito Joe. You're listening to ESPN 105.9 The Zone. As we're not but about a month and a few days away from the NFL draft. Elijah Moore, Kylin Hill, among others, will be drafted. And the big talk is discussion is NFL quarterbacks. Will they be overdrafted? Yes, just like Alabama football players. But we'll see how it plays out. We're going to welcome in NFL Insider podcast. You can find him on pff.com. He is Steve Palazzolo on the Modelo guest line. All right, Steve, I'm hearing all this chatter about these the quarterbacks. And outside of Trevor Lawrence right now, who is Steve Palazzolo's number 2 quarterback in the NFL draft?
Yeah, I'm going Zack Wilson. I think most people at PFF agree. You know, I think when you look at his accuracy and really good decision-making last year at BYU, it was a one-year breakout, but he had shown flashes previously, was finally healthy, and I think he's just got some of that feel, that playmaking feel in and out of the pocket when things break down, quick release, pretty good carry on the ball, throwing the ball outside the numbers. So there's a lot to like about Zack Wilson. Really productive last year, throw for throw in our grading system. One of the best grades we've ever given, dating back to 2014. So a lot to like about Zack Wilson. He's our number 2.
Who is number 3 and describe the gap between 2 and 3?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a gap. Now, we always have to be cautious. We know quarterback evaluations can be all over the place, but we would have a gap. I think Justin Fields is our number 3 at PFF. We have Trey Lance, and Mac Jones is number 5. But I understand why people would like a Mac Jones. I understand how well he operates the offense and hits open throws, and he's pretty accurate. I think his arm is a limiting factor, though, for Jones. And I think when you look at Justin Fields and Trey Lance, and especially recent developments with guys like Josh Allen and Justin Herbert developing into their tools, I think you're going to see Fields and Lance maybe get the nod on a few different team draft boards. So we like Justin Fields as number 3. He's got to play a little bit quicker. But yeah, I'd feel much more comfortable with Lawrence and Wilson, those top 2 guys. And I think there's a little bit of gap before you get into 3, 4, and 5.
Okay, Steve Palazzolo on the Modelo guest line, pff.com. Describe the gap between Trevor Lawrence and Zack Wilson and the others.
Yeah, I mean, Lawrence just has everything you're looking for. You know, it from a prospect standpoint, you know, he's the best since Andrew Luck. And, you know, he's one of those few guys where here's the way I describe Trevor Lawrence. He can attack every level of the field. So if you get the right play caller, you have everything at your disposal. He throws the back shoulder fade really well. He throws with touch. He throws with accuracy at the short and intermediate level. He was an excellent decision maker at Clemson. Didn't really turn the ball over a whole lot, or at least even put the ball in harm's way. Lawrence can even run the ball if needed. You know, a couple of QB keepers per game just to keep the defense honest. All of that stuff adds up to an Andrew Luck-like prospect. Now, Luck, I think for all the hype, maybe didn't completely live up to it until his later years. That's when he finally started grading well for us. And that was after, you know, he didn't really have the best team around him. But I think Lawrence just has that ability to carry a team. He's got all of it. If Wilson ended up having some seasons that were better than Trevor Lawrence, that could happen. I could absolutely see that. I just think Lawrence's baseline, if you're looking at the next 10 years, Lawrence is as good as it gets, and I think the clear number one player in this draft.
Steve Palazzolo, PFF.com. So Zack Wilson out of BYU is your number 2 guy. He's more refined and polished right now than Justin Fields. Does Justin Fields have more upside than Wilson, Steve?
Yeah, I don't love using the word upside, but I could, it might be more relevant now because of the way Herbert and Allen have developed. But yeah, I think with Fields, he throws the ball very accurately. I mean, he didn't have a whole lot of pressured pockets. Neither did Wilson really at BYU. So there wasn't a lot of play under pressure. Fields had it wasn't a lot of one read, but things were pretty defined for him. But when he just stands in there and chucks it, it's good, good velocity and good accuracy. So those are a great baseline for Fields. He has the athleticism as well. I mean, a lot of these guys are really athletic and can be used as part of the run game. So I think Fields could be a part of the QB run game a little bit more than some of the other guys. The question is just speeding up his process a little bit. When Fields when he's off, he works a little slow. When Trevor Lawrence gets off, he works too fast. He gets too fidgety and rushes things. So Fields just needs to speed up his process. And a lot of the time, it's just your system, it's your scheme, it's your supporting tasks, it's how you're coached up. So I think Fields has all of that. So yeah, I think from an upside standpoint, if Justin Fields ended up developing into the second best quarterback in this draft behind Trevor Lawrence, that wouldn't be a surprise either. We know how crazy the evaluations can be, and Fields absolutely has all the tools to succeed at the next level.
He's our guy, Steve Palazzolo, NFL insider. College football, too. He joins us on the Modelo guest line. The site is pff.com. Steve also has the NFL podcast for Pro Football Focus. Steve joins us on the Modelo guest line. Okay, let's go to Mac Jones. I think this is insane. But I just struggle. I mean, when you have that much talent around you, I really question how much you're really elevating the people around you and your team. And when you have a clean pocket, 90% of the time, too. Having said that, it looks like everybody's getting on the Mac Jones train. Tell me why I should be on it. Tell me why I should not be on it, Steve.
Yeah, so I think you would want to be on it because, I've seen the A.J. McCarron comparisons. He's better than A.J. McCarron. He's not that. He does throw the ball more accurately. He does have a good feel for the passing game. He didn't have to throw a ton of tight window throws, but when he did, he puts it where it needs to go. And he just executes, right? It's the old school, just execute the offense. And he didn't just do it and put up great stats. He did it at an extremely high level. Our PFF rating system can kind of parse out when it's really easy and the stats get inflated. There was some of that with Mac Jones, but there was also a lot that was him as well. So the production, the accuracy, everything that he did was fantastic. So that's where you would get on board with a Mac Jones. Where I struggle with Mac Jones is, again, I don't know if it's too much recency bias for me, but the fact that some of the more toolsy quarterbacks have come in and gotten better and developed. You do have to have a certain level of arm strength that just raises your baseline in the NFL. I think Mac Jones is just okay from an arm talent standpoint. It's kind of like in baseball they talk about you have an average velocity is 90. Back in the day, now it's a lot higher. But most pitchers throw higher than that. It's kind of like where Mac Jones is. So it's average, but most pitchers throw better than that, right? That's kind of Mac Jones. His average arm, but the average NFL arm is like 28th in the NFL or 29th in the NFL because most quarterbacks have an above average NFL arm. It makes sense, but it doesn't. So that's Mac Jones. It just tightens up your margin of error. And he reminds me a little bit of Teddy Bridgewater from that respect. There's not a whole lot of outside the pocket, outside of structure magic for Mac Jones. Similar to Teddy Bridgewater, okay arm, good decision maker, accurate guy. So there might be a ceiling to Mac Jones, but I do think his floor is probably higher than a guy like A.J. McCarron and other Bama quarterbacks from the past.
Do you expect Mac Jones to go in the top 10?
Yeah, I do. I think there's so much smoke there that there's probably fire. Yeah, from Adam Schefter to other people in the league saying, look, I think there's 4 in the top 6 or whatever it might be. I think that the odd man out might be Trey Lance out of that group. Trey Lance, I think, has a similar skill set as Justin Fields, maybe not as good of an arm, but an elite runner like Fields. Lawrence is a good runner, but I think Trey Lance might be the guy that drops just a little bit and is viewed as more of a developmental prospect, and teams start to view Mac Jones as like a we can start him today type of guy, and that might push him to the top 10, and maybe Trey Lance ends up at 12 to San Francisco as a developmental guy or whatever it might be.
This is going to be wild. April 29th in Cleveland, Ohio. Out of bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Steve Palazzolo has Mac Jones going. He thinks Mac Jones will go in the top 10. And Trey Lance may be the odd man out. Kyle Trask, Florida Gator QB, do you think Kyle Trask will go in the top 20 or top 25?
I don't even think he goes in the first round, to be honest. I think Trask, he finished the season on a sour note. You got the Oklahoma Bowl game. I know nobody from Florida was playing with him, but it was more, the ball floats when he throws the ball outside the numbers. I think the tools, as much as I'm knocking Mac Jones' tools, Trask is maybe a tick below when it comes to just pure velocity and getting the ball where it needs to go. I like Kyle Trask. I think he was the best Florida quarterback since Tim Tebow. He was the first guy that went in there, and when he took over for Felipe Franks, you could just see the offense was different. He was a better decision maker, spreading the ball around. I think Trask is going to he's limited by his tools, and a lot of the NFL I think is going to look at him and say, okay, he's a backup. He didn't even play in high school. He's still a young quarterback as far as reps go. So I could see a team taking him in and saying, okay, maybe he continues to develop, but at the very least he's a backup. And I think that screams, more of a day 2 type of pick, just because of the perceived limited upside of Trask and his athleticism and arm strength that just isn't up to par compared to some other guys.
What do you think the New England Patriots will do in the first round, Steve?
I really thought that this free agency period, the aggressiveness, the ability to just go through, they filled every need that they had. I think that signals they're going to get a guy. I think they wanted to have all their bases covered, not have any, glaring holes going into the draft, and then say, okay, we don't really pick at 15 very often. We just invested in this roster a whole lot, so we're hoping we're not picking at 15 or top 10 again next year. We're thinking we're a playoff team, and I think they're going to go get a QB. And I think they built a roster to handle a quarterback. They overpaid for a whole bunch of mid-tier, good players, not great players, some good players, and now they have the place to handle a rookie quarterback contract, whether it is a Mac Jones or a Trey Lance or a Justin Fields. I think they try to leverage their spot at number 15, and instead of trading down like crazy like they usually do, I think this might be the one year where the Patriots go make a move and try to grab one of those top quarterbacks.
And if you had to guess that their best shot to get someone to move up would be Mac Jones or Trey Lance?
Those are the two I'm thinking. And again, it's so funny. I can't wait to get into Belichick's head because the guy just had Tom Brady for 20 years. So is he trying to replicate Tom Brady? Does he say, you know what, I need a run-first quarterback like we had with Cam Newton? Does he try to change everything? And I feel like the Mac Jones-Trey Lance debate might answer that. They might look at Mac Jones and say, okay, we want this guy that executes the offense, works quickly, hits open throws. We'll build that supporting cast around him. Or they could get a guy like Trey Lance and say, okay, you've got more of a Cam Newton type of skill set. We'll let you sit and learn from Cam for a year. You're taking over in 2022. You got the speed and the running ability. He did a great job with the QB run game at North Dakota State, but he needs a lot more reps as well. Maybe they let him sit and develop, and he takes over next year. So I could see the Patriots going either way, but it looks like Mac Jones and Trey Lance are probably the most logical options for New England if they trade up.
This is like a 24-ounce ribeye on the NFL draft right here with Steve Palazzolo, ProFootballFocus.com, PFF.com, Pro Football Focus. He's got the podcast. They're doing all kinds of cool stuff for the NFL draft. He joins us on the Modelo guest line. We're live from the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook and Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. Getting ready for March Madness and college baseball, the NFL draft, and the Masters over the next few weeks. Steve, Elijah Moore, if you've had a chance to look at him, what do you think, and where do you think he could go in the NFL draft? Wide receiver out of Ole Miss, who had a great, great year in 2020.
Yeah, he was fantastic. I still have a little bit more work to do on all the receivers. He is one of our top 6 or 7 in our rankings. I think our lead draft analyst, Mike Renner, likes him as more of a second-round type of player. I think the interesting thing is him being a little undersized compared to obviously some of the bigger receivers, but with Moore, with Rondale Moore, with Kadarius Toney, Tutu Atwell, there's all sorts of these slot hybrid type of players. I think that's how the NFL is going to view them, and I don't know if that's going to make some of those guys drop a little bit lower in the draft, but I thought Moore was just fantastic. Before getting open before the catch, he was one of the best in the nation, just getting open against single coverage, which is the most important thing for a receiver. Sounds simple, but that's the most important thing. Contested catches, those are nice, and sideline catches are great, but Elijah Moore gets open, so that's the biggest thing. And he's also pretty good at the catch point for his size and everything that he brings to the table. So I think he's a second-round caliber player, but also one of those guys, if you look at him being one of the top 3 or 4 most productive receivers in this draft class, you wouldn't necessarily be all that surprised. He has all the skills to do that at the next level. That's exciting.
Okay. I think pound for pound, he's strong as a bull, and I think he's got great hands. So I'll be interested to see what y'all think, 2-3 weeks from now as you really get to dive into it more. He is Steve Palazzolo on the Modelo guest line. All right, I know you don't like running backs, but Kylin Hill is very, very talented, and he's built like a Mack truck, and according to, even though he didn't play much, according to the Mississippi State staff, can catch the football out of the backfield. Now, I don't think anybody expects him to go until maybe 4th, 5th, 6th round. I don't know. If you have had a chance to look at him or talk to some of your colleagues, and we'll do more of this in the next couple of weeks, but what do you think about Kylin Hill out of Mississippi State?
Yeah, I mean, just like you were saying, running backs have this interchangeability, but when you do grab a 4th or 5th rounder, and if that is where Hill goes, he does what good running backs do, and that's force guys to miss tackles, right? He just creates on his own. So if you're going to have success, that's the biggest key, is the ability to create yards after contact, force missed tackles. He does catch the ball pretty well, so absolutely could see him carving out a role. And like any year, 4th and 5th round running backs, if that's where he goes or that's where anybody goes, those guys have as much of as a chance as a first rounder to have success. It's just about opportunity. So I like Hill. I like him as a player because what he does on his own above and beyond his offensive line, and that's the biggest thing when it comes to running back evaluations.
What's the difference? Well, I know they're different players, but when you look at Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith, who would be your guy and why?
Oh, man, the internal debate that we have here at PFF is strong. We have some people on the Smith bandwagon, some people on Waddle. I am generally the guy that leans towards speed, so that's Jalen Waddle. He reminds me a little bit of Brandon Cooks, a good enough route runner, a guy that can get behind the defense. He had it really easy. You're talking about Mac Jones having it easy. Jalen Waddle had it easy. He was in the slot against off coverage, and he just dominated. So he was really productive. I think I would lean toward the production, though, with Devontae Smith. I know the questions about his actual speed, his size, but his catch radius and his game speed. Look at the national championship game. You just see him, outrunning pretty good defensive players to the corner, and his game speed is there. So I'm leaning toward Devontae Smith there, but I am usually attracted to the speed guys. I'm attracted to those guys who are sub 4.3 or in the 4.3, sub 4.4 guys that I think have that big playability. So if Waddle's in the right situation, can see him becoming that legitimate deep threat. But I think Devontae Smith is a safer play as a high-volume receiver who can win all over the field and definitely plays much better than his time or his size would indicate, obviously.
Okay. All right. NFL Draft, April 29th, Cleveland, Ohio. And we'll see what happens with Elijah Moore and Kylin Hill. I can't wait to see what shakes out with these QBs. This love fest over Mac Jones has me shaking my head, but we're going to see how this all...
I know you hate it, right?
I just... All right, Blake Scott has I'm going to pass on Kyle Pitts to the Jets and welcome in Blake Scott, who loves PFF.com and the NFL. Blake?
Yes. All right, so I have a question. Bo, you and I talked about this with Bobby Belt, and we've talked about the Cowboys picking at number 10. You don't like Patrick Surtain as a pick because you don't feel like he's an influential, impact position at number 10. You asked me outside of offensive linemen what about an edge rush or something like that? So, Steve, is this one of the worst edge classes you've seen? And with the Cowboys at number 10, if you can't get a Penei Sewell, is a Rashawn Slater an option for real? Is that an impact pick at number 10 or Patrick Surtain as well?
First off, corner is absolutely an impact pick. So that's the bottom. That's the first thing. Cornerback is actually the most valuable position on the defense. If you know you can get a corner, it is actually more valuable than pass rushers. So I like Surtain or Caleb Farley if he's healthy in there. I would like that. As far as edge classes go, yeah, because there's no Bosa in this one. There's no Myles Garrett. There's no Chase Young. So you don't have that just lock at the top, and every other player, has some questions. So from Kwity Paye at Michigan to Jason Owe from Penn State, I mean, it's just a solid class. There's a lot of good athletes who haven't really produced at a high level. The Bosas, Myles Garrett's of the world, the Chase Youngs, those guys had both. Great athletes, great technicians, and they just won and dominated football games. So, yeah, the edge class is that. I think the edge value is probably back end of the first or into the second round in this draft. So I wouldn't love that for Dallas at 10. I'm all for offensive line depth. I don't know why the NFL might want Rashawn Slater over Penei Sewell. I like Slater. He's a really good player. Penei Sewell, to me, is the best tackle prospect we've seen in a few years. So if either one of those guys there, it's a good long-term play for Dallas, some Tyron Smith, insurance, or whatever it might be. But I think corner is the play there if Surtain is there. I think that's the best way to get that Dallas defense back on track.
Oh, man. All right, Steve, I'm going to leave you with this because I've only got a minute. Matt Corral at Ole Miss is better than any quarterback in the draft except Trevor Lawrence. Zack Wilson. That's what that is what I am running with right now. Just remember I said this, so you can either call me crazy or a genius next year. But Trey Lance, Zack Wilson, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, blah, blah, blah. Matt Corral is a better player than any of those guys except Trevor Lawrence. All right, buddy, we hope you have a great weekend, and we'll jump into more NFL draft next week. Sound good?
Yeah, can't wait. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
See you, buddy. Steve Palazzolo, PFF.com, NFL podcast, Pro Football Focus. And then you can see all the good stuff that they do on PFF.com. The Out of Bounds show is brought to you by the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook and Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. So bet $50 right here at the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook. You can play Dancing Rabbit Golf Club for $30. That goes through Wednesday. I'm trying to lobby Mark and Ryan to extend it, but I can't tell you that that's going to happen. So right now, bet 50, play 30. We're live in the Bank Plus studio. The Out of Bounds show is brought to you by Mosquito Joe. If you're looking to install a misting system at your home to get those mosquitoes out and away, Mosquito Joe. Think Joe DiMaggio. Mosquito Joe. Plus, they'll spray your home, right? Or they'll service an existing misting system that you have. The show is powered by Mosquito Joe and Mosquito Joe.